I, for many years, have been in the business, listeners, of media monitoring. Having regard to what I do, having regard to my own interest in tracking public affairs and matters touching and concerning national development, I often canvass the media, gauge public opinion, and take careful note of public discourse. Jamaica is a society that has built up a reputation, sadly so, of lawlessness, disorder, and of course, the scourge of murders. That's a reputation that we will take quite some time to shake off. In fact, such has the high murder tallies historically been in this country that we, in many instances here in Jamaica, have often had murder tallies that are comparable and even greater than war-torn countries. Certainly countries that are at civil war, for example. I was never particularly sold on the prospect or likelihood that Jamaica would have significant downturns in its murder scourge that would see us come below 1,000 murders in my lifetime, or even 800 murders in my lifetime. Because racking up murders in the order of 1,000 and in excess of that over many years has been the feature of the Jamaican society, particularly with emerging developments such as the lottery scam and the attendant mayhem that comes with that. And of course, having regard to the phenomenon that is contract killing, meaning persons who eat a food, as it were, on the basis of being contracted to go on, as they would say in the streets, masha works. So in my media monitoring, I have been detecting that in a context where, at long last, the hardworking, brave and courageous men and women of the Jamaica Constabulary Force have been effecting considerable dents into our murder scourge in this country. I have noted the emergence of bleeding heart narrative and bleeding heart posture, which essentially, listeners, is designed to and is aimed at achieving nothing more than to embarrass the men and women of the security forces and, I dare say, demoralize them. We have been killing well in excess of 1,000 Jamaicans each year. We are at a point now where we are on course to dip below 1,000 murders for the first time in many years. We are on course, quite frankly, if we are to extrapolate from the current situation, we are well on course to dip in the region of 800 or sub 800 murders. That would be game changing here in Jamaica. It would be game changing in many respects and in many ways. But what I have observed, listeners, is a strong emergence in the public conversation of rhetoric cleverly disguised as concern about the spate of police fatal shootings. Yes, it's rhetoric really aimed at putting a damper on the ascendancy that the police is enjoying at this point in time. Now, make no mistake, body cameras being deployed and utilized by men and women, certainly who are seeing action on the operational front, is welcomed. The JCF has said as much, the police commissioner has said as much, the government has said as much. Body-worn cameras, however, are not like a loaf of bread. First of all, they're quite costly. And in the Jamaican context, while we have had considerable improvements in our fiscal realities as a country, we still have a number of competing priorities in the Jamaican landscape. We still need to provide support to people on path. We still need to purchase diagnostic equipment for our public health facilities. We still need to purchase police cars. We still need to renovate fire stations and buy fire trucks. We still need to build out water systems across communities that are without the precious commodity, sadly. Many things to be done, not to mention fixing your roads. And so, the budget to the JCF in respect of the procurement of body-worn cameras has to be considered within the context of all the competing priorities. So it is my information, listeners, that there are some 8,000 men and women in the JCF who are deployed in operational type, interface with public type activities. And ideally, you would want about 8,000 body-worn cameras at the disposal of the JCF. At present, I am advised we have some 750 body-worn cameras being deployed at present. I'm also advised that there are another 1,000 that are in procurement. So in short, this rhetoric about police killings and the fact that the police don't have body-worn cameras has to be mindful of the fact that here in Jamaica, we ultimately want to have full and optimal deployment of body-worn cameras. However, we will not get to the 8,000 body-worn cameras in one fell swoop. We have made considerable strides, however, in that regard, because it is my understanding that one of the critical hurdles in relation to body-worn cameras has now been crossed, has now been successfully cleared. That is, the body-worn cameras, listeners, that are being utilized by the men and women of the JCF, yes, have to be supported by technological infrastructure that will facilitate the storage of the footage gleaned from the body-worn cameras and the custody, the integrity of that footage has to be assured such that any footage gleaned from the body cameras can form exhibits in proceedings in our court of law. And so this is not a Mickey Mouse business. Serious technological and resource investments had to go into building that infrastructure. And I'm delighted to know that we now have that bit of infrastructure in place. And that came to the tune of billions of dollars, I gather. But we are now where we are. We have the supporting and enabling technology behind the body-worn cameras in place. That is good. We have 750 deployed across the island at present. That is good. But we have a considerable way to go because we need at least 7,000 more. And I'm happy that they are in procurement for another 1,000. And as the fiscal space allows, we will be building out further to the 8,000. But certainly, where we are at present is 750 more than we had a few years ago. So for those persons who would want to detract from the sterling work and effort of the men and women in the constabulary who are effecting a considerable dent in murders, so much so that for the month of February, we recorded here in Jamaica some 47 murders, the lowest in some 25 years. That is the lowest in a quarter of a century in any given month here in Jamaica. That is a step in the right direction. But let me just remove the varnish and speak in clear terms. There are some persons in Jamaica who would be keen to swim in the blood of our Jamaican brothers and sisters if it means that swimming in that blood would take them to Jamaica House. There are some persons here in Jamaica who would be prepared and who would be keen on seeing this country burning to the ground and going up in smoke if it means that they will get to rule over the ashes. But guess what? Them have a next guest coming. It cannot work like that. It will not work like that. No amount of berating the police, no amount of bleating and capping, as they would say out in the streets, about increases in police fatal shootings will cause the police to relent. The mantra espoused by Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Michael Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, is quite emphatic, and the mantra is quite clear. When the policemen and women are deployed and they go in pursuit of suspected criminals, the criminals are being advised that they should lay down their arms and not threaten the lives of the policemen and women or any other member of the public. So the mantra is clear. Andrew Holness said it. He said it much to the chagrin of some persons who pushed back. But the Prime Minister is not relenting. Well-thinking Jamaicans are not relenting. And those of us who want the police to continue to step in the neck of crime in this country, and certainly step in the neck of murders in this country, are not relenting. And so the mantra is clear. Meet a judge or meet your maker. Any guy in the sound of my voice this morning, across traditional media or social media, who, by virtue of their own political considerations and machinations, are not comfortable with the 35% reduction in murders that we have registered here in Enterprise Jamaica since the start of 2025, has a next guest coming. You have a next guest coming, guy. Police Commissioner Dr. Kevin Blake will not relent. He has said as much. The men and women under his command are well trained, and they are trained to win. So the known violence producers, the investigative capabilities and technological resources at the disposal of the JCF which is leading them in very targeted, spear-fishing kinds of ways to go in pursuit of alleged criminals. When they come for you, bad boys, it is best for you to lay down your arms, do not clutch them or raise them at the police, and instead cooperate and go and have your day in court. We saw some very smart men do precisely that in Spalding. They went live on TikTok, I believe it was, and they surrendered peacefully and they were taken in. In fact, I gather that the vast majority of persons being pursued by the police are electing to meet a judge. A number of recent reports across traditional media underscore that point. But there are those who believe that they should take on the police. But when they do so, please be advised, as the police commissioner has telegraphed, when you do so, the police will win, and they will win every time. And for those persons for whom this item of news is not so auspicious, you're going to have to live with it. Madam Producer, press play.
Residents of several chambers of commerce are hailing the continued reduction in murders across the country. According to data from the Jamaica Constabulary Force, as of February 28, murders are down at 35%. Between January 1 and February 28, 117 murders have been recorded. This is 63 fewer than the 180 committed in the corresponding period of 2024. More in this report. In February 2025, a total of 47 murders were reported. This is the lowest on record since 2000, with only one murder in St. James, one in St. Elizabeth, one in Canova, and 0 in Trelawney.